Meet the Wheelers, so brave and so true. A mystical journey is waiting for you. Dad Arthur can fix it, Mom Ellie can steer. With Max and with Lily, there's nothing to fear. Barley's our dog, a magic retriever. 3 wishes a day for the magic believer. I'm Elias, your guide to this grand library. Buckle up, friends, let's make history!
Hello again, travelers. Step closer to the light of the lantern. I've just found a very special volume in the Mystical Library. Today is a big day in the Wheeler family chronicles. We're traveling to the Emerald Woods, where the dew sings and the trees whisper secrets. It's Max's 13th birthday, and he's been promised 3 whole wishes to make his dreams come true. But as any traveler knows, the road has a way of testing you. Sometimes, the best gift isn't something you can hold in your hand. It's something you find in your heart. Are you ready to see what happens when magic meets a birthday? Then let's open the book and begin. Max's Birthday and the Whispering Bog. Part 1. The Golden Morning and the First Sneeze. The sun did not simply rise over the Emerald Woods. It performed a grand opening. In this corner of the world, the light arrived in shimmering glitters of gold and lime, turning every leaf into a polished gemstone. Even the morning dew had a magical personality. It didn't just sit on the grass. It vibrated with a low, melodic hum that sounded like 1,000 tiny cellos playing in harmony. Inside the Wander-Wagon, the air was thick with a different kind of energy. It was electric, buzzing with the sort of high-voltage excitement that only comes once a year. Today was no ordinary Tuesday on the road. It was Max's 13th birthday. 13, the big one, the official bridge between childhood and the mysterious world of being a teenager. Arthur was already busy in the tiny kitchenette, whistling a jaunty tune. He was attempting to flip blueberry pancakes in a pan that was slightly too large for the stove, all while ducking his head to avoid the low-hanging spice rack. "Step aside, world," Arthur announced to the empty hallway. "The birthday chef is in the zone." Meanwhile, Mom Ellie was hunched over her magical map at the small dining nook. The parchment was behaving like a living thing today. Tiny paper trees were sprouting from the surface of the map, and miniature gusts of real, cool wind were blowing across the table, fluttering Ellie's hair. "Arthur," Ellie whispered, her brow furrowed in concentration, "the map is being very specific this morning. It says the path ahead isn't muddy or rocky. It just says the ground is soft. S-O-F-T. Capital letters." "It's Max's birthday, Ellie," Arthur replied, catching a runaway pancake with a dramatic flourish. "Let the map have its moods. Today, we aren't worrying about geography. Today, we are making magic happen for our boy." Max emerged from his bunk, rubbing his eyes. He tried to look cool, because that's what 13-year-olds do, but a small smile escaped when he saw the happy birthday banner Lily had drawn with glowing markers. Barley, the golden retriever, was right at her heels. His tail was thumping against the wooden floorboards like a rhythmic bass drum. He let out a joyful woof, his wise eyes shining. Barley knew exactly what day it was. He had 3 sneezes today. 3 chances to make this the most legendary day in Wheeler history. The family gathered around the small table, the smell of warm maple syrup filling the van. "Okay, team," Arthur said, leaning in with a serious expression. "We had a family meeting about this. Since we are currently parked in the heart of the enchanted forest, and the nearest shopping mall is roughly 500 miles away, we decided on a special plan. Today, Barley is going to dedicate all 3 of his magical wishes entirely to Max." Max's eyes widened, his cereal spoon halfway to his mouth. "All 3? But Dad, what if we get a flat tire in the woods?
Or what if the water tank springs a leak? We always keep one wish for emergencies.
Science and a good wrench can fix tires, Max, Ellie said, reaching over to ruffle his messy hair.
Today, the magic belongs to you. No emergencies allowed. Now tell us, what is the first thing on your ultimate birthday list?
Max didn't even have to pause to think. He had been dreaming about this since they left the last city.
A high-speed holographic drone, he said breathlessly. One with 4K sensors that can film from above the clouds and send the 3D video feed straight to my headset.
Barley looked up at Max, tilting his head to the side as if evaluating the technical specifications of the request. He let out a long, dramatic huff of air, stood up on his sturdy paws, and took a deep breath.
Up-choo! Up-choo!
The family held their breath. Then came the final, golden blast.
Up-choo!
The first wish of the day was spent. A whirlwind of golden dust swirled in the center of the living area, smelling faintly of pine needles and ozone. When the dust settled, a sleek, silver drone, looking like a piece of fallen star, was hovering inches above the table. It hummed with a soft, neon blue light, its tiny rotors spinning silently. Max was speechless. He grabbed his headset, his face lighting up with pure, unshielded joy. For the next 3 hours, the Wander-Wagon stood still while Max explored the canopy of the emerald woods from the sky, capturing squirrels that argued about nuts. It was the perfect start. Part 2. The Neon Throne and the Violet Sludge. By noon, the Wander-Wagon was rolling deeper into the emerald woods. Max was still buzzing from the excitement of his new drone, but his birthday list was far from finished. For his second wish, he wanted a slice of the city life they had left behind.
I thought about it, Dad, Max said, leaning against the kitchen counter. The drone is for the sky, but I want something for the long drives. I want the ultimate gaming chair, one that vibrates with the action and even smells like the game environment. Forest moss, burnt rubber, or space ozone.
Arthur laughed, glancing back from the driver's seat. A sensory throne, eh? Barley, buddy, do you think you can handle a piece of high-tech furniture? Barley didn't need a second invitation. He stood up, shaking his golden fur until his ears flopped loudly. He looked at Max with a wag of his tail, took a deep breath, and delivered the rhythmic magic.
Up-choo! Up-choo! Up-choo!
The second wish of the day erupted in a swirl of violet and silver sparks. In the blink of an eye, the old passenger seat of the Wander-Wagon vanished. In its place stood a magnificent, neon-lit throne of charcoal leather and glowing blue strips. It looked like it belonged on a starship. Max climbed into it, and the chair immediately adjusted to his weight, let out a satisfied hiss of air, and began a gentle back massage. Best birthday ever, Max sighed, closing his eyes as the chair began to emit a faint, pleasant scent of mountain rain. But while Max was relaxing in luxury, the world outside was changing. The vibrant, singing green of the emerald woods was fading. The trees began to look thin and twisted, their bark turning a bruised shade of gray. The cheerful humming of the dew was replaced by a low, unsettling whisper that seemed to come from the roots themselves.
Arthur, stop the van,
Ellie said, her voice dropping to a sharp whisper. She pointed at her magical map. The paper trees were no longer standing tall. They were wilting, turning a dark, ink-black color. The word, soft, was now pulsing in a deep, angry purple.
The map is turning dark. We've crossed a border we weren't supposed to cross.
Arthur slammed on the brakes, but the Wander-Wagon didn't just stop. It felt as if a giant, invisible hand had grabbed the underside of the vehicle. With a sickening, wet slurp, the van tilted sharply to the left. The wheels didn't just skid, they disappeared into the ground.
What happened?
Max cried, nearly sliding out of his vibrating chair as the floor reached a dangerous 45-degree angle.
It's the Whispering Bog,
Ellie said,
pressing her face against the window. Outside, the ground was no longer solid. It had turned into a thick, pulsing violet sludge that looked like melted wax.
It's a magical trap, Max. It doesn't eat you like quicksand, it just holds you. It saps your will and your memory until you forget where you were going and stay here forever.
Arthur hopped into the driver's seat and gunned the engine. The roar of the motor echoed through the silent, whispering trees. The tires spun wildly, throwing clumps of purple slime against the windows, but it was useless. Each rotation only drew them deeper into the hungry earth. The violet sludge was already reaching the doorframe, beginning to seal them inside.
"We're stuck," Arthur gasped, turning off the ignition as the engine began to smoke. "Really, truly stuck. The mechanical winch won't help us here. This mud is made of pure heavy magic." The family gathered in the center of the tilted cabin, clinging to the furniture to stay upright. The atmosphere had shifted from a birthday party to a survival mission in a matter of seconds. Everyone turned their heads slowly to look at Barley. The golden retriever was sitting near the bunk beds, his breathing heavy. One wish. That was all they had left for the entire day. The weight of the silence in the van was heavier than the bog outside. They were trapped in a purple sea of whispers, and the clock was ticking. Part 3. The Ultimate Sacrifice and the Galaxy Above. The silence inside the tilted Wander-Wagon was heavier than the purple sludge pressing against the windows. Outside, the Whispering Bog gave a loud, hungry squelch, and the metal walls of the van groaned under the magical pressure. The family gathered in the center of the cabin, bracing themselves against the steep angle of the floor. Everyone was looking at Barley. The golden retriever sat near the bunk beds, his breathing steady, but his golden collar dim. One last "achoo" for the entire day. "Okay," Arthur said, his face pale and damp with sweat. He wiped his forehead with a trembling hand. "We have to use it. There's no other way out. Barley, buddy, we need a giant crane. Or maybe a massive rocket engine to blast us out of this violet soup."
Wait!
Lily cried, her voice cracking as she clutched her stuffed rabbit.
But the last wish was supposed to be Max's birthday cake, the galaxy cake with the real edible stars. He's been talking about it for months, Dad. It's his 13th birthday.
The air in the van felt thick and cold. Max looked at his little sister, then at the sleek silver drone sitting on the table, and finally at his glowing neon gaming chair. He could almost taste the lemon and starlight frosting of the cake he had imagined. But then he looked at his mother, Ellie, who was desperately trying to keep the magical map from sliding into the rising sludge. He saw the genuine fear in her eyes.
"If we don't use the wish to save the van,"
Max said quietly, his voice surprisingly steady for a boy who had just turned 13.
"we'll be stuck here forever. No cake, no drone, no gaming chair. Just us and this whispering purple slime until we forget our own names." "But it's your day, Max,"
Ellie said, her heart breaking for her son.
"We promised you 3 wonders. We wanted this to be perfect."
Max looked at Barley. The dog's deep, wise amber eyes were fixed on him, waiting. Barley wasn't just a pet. He was a guardian, and he knew that the choice belonged to the birthday boy. Max realized that being a teenager wasn't about getting the coolest gadgets. It was about knowing when to let them go. "Dad," Max said, standing up straight despite the tilt of the floor, "a crane won't work. Mom said this bog is magical. It'll just swallow a crane like a snack. We need to go up." "Then what do we do, son?" Arthur asked, letting go of the steering wheel. Max smiled, a real, mature smile.
"Barley, I know what I want for my 3rd wish. And it's definitely not a cake. Barley, I wish for gravity-defying hover boots for the Wander-Wagon."
Barley's tail gave one singular, powerful wag against the wall. He stood up,
shook his fur one last time, and took a deep, purposeful breath. Up-choo! 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 The final wish of the day erupted. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, a low, tectonic hum vibrated through the floorboards. Outside, 4 massive glowing blue discs materialized under the chassis of the van, right where the wheels were sinking into the sludge. The violet mud hissed in protest. The hoverboots flared with a brilliant cerulean light, and with a sound like a giant suction cup being pulled off a window, pop! The Wander-Wagon shot upward. It hovered 5 feet above the bog, perfectly level, spraying purple slime in every direction. Woohoo! Arthur yelled, diving back into the driver's seat. We're flying! Sort of. Hang on, wheelers!
They hovered away from the Whispering Bog, gliding over the sickly trees until they reached a sun-drenched meadow filled with glowing white flowers. Arthur gently set the hover height to 0, landing the van on solid, honest rock. The magic was gone for the day. Barley's collar was completely dark. There was no galaxy cake, no edible stars, just a quiet van in a beautiful meadow. "I'm sorry about your cake, Max," Lily whispered, hugging him tightly. "It's okay, Lil," Max said, ruffling her hair. He went to the small kitchen, found a slightly squashed loaf of bread, and spread some strawberry jam on a thick slice. He found a single, half-melted candle in a drawer and stuck it in the middle. "Look out the window," he said, lighting the wick. The sun was setting, and because they were in the heart of the enchanted forest, the stars didn't just appear in the sky. They descended. Small, glowing points of ancient light drifted down like snowflakes, hovering just outside the glass. It looked exactly like the galaxy cake Max had dreamed of, but 1,000 times better. It was real. They sat together, Mom, Dad, Max, Lily, and Barley, eating bread and jam by the light of the forest stars. "You know," Max said, leaning back in his regular old passenger seat, "the drone is cool. The chair is okay. But saving my family? That actually made me feel like I truly grew up today." Barley put his heavy head on Max's lap and let out a long, contented sigh. He didn't need magic to know that this was the best birthday the Wheelers had ever had. The stars are dimming, and our story for tonight is reaching its final page. You know, Max thought that drones and neon chairs were what made a birthday special. But when the Whispering Bog tried to hold them back, he realized that growing up is about choosing what truly matters. He didn't get his galaxy cake, but I think the stars outside his window tasted even sweeter. Remember, friends, magic can give you a lot of things, but courage is something only you can give yourself. The end of this tale is just the beginning of our next journey. See you in the next adventure. This was Elias, your librarian. Rest well and keep dreaming.